In June 2023, the Korean streaming world was shook after news broke out of one of the most famous streamers in Korea completely vanishing after entering a mysterious clinic in Cambodia. There are a few people involved in this case, but the main suspects were the couple that ran the clinic that she was last seen walking into before disappearing and never coming out alive. Yeon was a rising star in the Korean streaming community. She mostly streamed her doing mukbangs, sometimes she streamed herself doing makeup tutorials, and she even posted vlogs on YouTube, and she was really active on Instagram. She has over 250k followers on Instagram and over 200,000 followers on the streaming platform called Africa TV. And this is like one of the most popular streaming platforms in Korea, and she was a really big creator on this platform. So Ayeong was doing really well, and she was making a lot of money from streaming actually. She even recently bought an apartment in Gangnam, which is like the Beverly Hills of Korea. Even small apartments in Gangnam will cost at least $1.5 million US. She was doing really well, especially at only the age of 33 to afford such an expensive property all on her own. She really had everything going for her. So it was no surprise when her fans were suddenly shocked when out of the blue one day, she made an Instagram post announcing her retirement. Just out of the blue, at the peak of her career, after buying a $1.5 million apartment, after reaching new all-time highs on her YouTube videos, and she just announced her retirement out of nowhere. On this Instagram post, she stated that she had some things to deal with and she would make a video explaining everything once she was back, and she was going to take a break in the meantime. And with that, she just disappeared and there was not a single trace from her. In the meantime, someone that she knew personally DM'd her and asked her why she was suddenly deciding to take a break, like out of nowhere. Why did she want to suddenly retire? And she texted back saying that she was having some stalker issues and she wanted to get out of the country to clear her head, to figure things out before returning to Korea and giving an official statement on what was going on. So having stalker problems is obviously a huge issue. It's not a small problem at all, but usually celebrities, especially famous female streamers like Ayeong, sadly do get a lot of stalkers and a lot of fans that try to find where she lives and try to give her big donations to get to know her on a personal level. So this isn't something unheard of. It's actually quite common, sadly, for streamers and celebrities or people with big followings to have stalker issues. The person that DM'd her thought this wasn't too big of an issue. It's just one of the hurdles that creators face, especially once they get super famous like she did. So on the 2nd of June in 2023, Ayeong touched down in Phnom Penh in Cambodia, and she was supposed to stay with a close friend of hers, this couple that was a Korean couple living in Cambodia. And so she decided to stay with them for a couple of days. On the 2nd of June, she landed and she went straight to the apartment, and that's where she was going to be living for her entire trip in Cambodia. Why specifically she went to Cambodia, I have no idea. Even until now, it's really difficult to find more information on this. But this couple was supposedly good friends of hers, and honestly, at the end of this case, I think you guys just like me will be doubting how close this couple actually was to Ayeong. But they seem to be decent friends, like decent enough for her to feel comfortable flying over to another country and living with them. And so on the 2nd, everything was just as usual. They went out for dinner, she was just settling in and just getting used to everything. She just had a chill day on the 2nd, and on the 3rd, it was the same as well. But on the 4th, Ayeong decided to go out sometime in the afternoon. For some reason, it was already evening and she wasn't home. And then it was already nighttime and she still wasn't home. For some reason, her friends didn't seem to think anything about it. The couple that she was living with in Cambodia, they just didn't think it was a big issue. Maybe they thought that Ayeong wanted her own space and she didn't want to be followed and constantly questioned, like, oh, why are you not home? Almost as if like she has a curfew. I guess that could be an argument for these two, but a whole day passes and it's already the next day. So it's been like 24 hours since she was home, and there's still no traces and no signs of Ayeong. She's still gone and nobody has any idea where she is. But for some reason, her friends don't even report her missing then, like even after 24 hours. So now it's already the 6th of June. A full 2 days after she's already left the apartment, and her friends finally decide to ask neighbors if they've seen her around, to try look into their CCTV clips, and they finally called the police and reported her missing because it was 2 whole days that their friend, who is in a completely new country to her, has gone missing. Honestly, I think this is already a little bit sus, because if I had a friend that was coming from overseas and didn't know anything about my home country, if they didn't come home within 6 to 7 hours, or if they weren't even home at night, you already know I'll be at the police station right away, because that's just so weird, right? I don't know if they even try to contact her, or It was really hard doing research on this case because there wasn't too much info given out by her friends that she lived with. And so I don't really know exactly what the logistics were of like their messages and their communication and all that. Earlier that morning on the 6th of June, in this small town on the outskirts of Phnom Penh, about 40 minutes out from where these guys lived, there was a construction worker that was going to his project site. It was just a normal day. He's the first one to get to his site as usual. And so he was just checking out all the machinery on his site. There was a lot of rain like the past few days. So there was a lot of stagnant water on the site, all over the site. And so he's just looking around his site, he's looking at the machinery, he's just making sure everything is okay. Until suddenly, he looks at this one big pile of water, just about 100 meters from him. And he sees this really big red object just lying there. It looks like a big stone that's wrapped in this red cloth. And so at first he thinks nothing much about it because usually in heavy rain and flood, like all sorts of things can get washed onto a construction site, right? So he just turns around and he's walking and he's just continuing with his routine checkup until it suddenly clicks in his head. Wait, there's no way that a rain on this scale could wash out, because it wasn't flooding, guys. It was just like typical normal rains. That wasn't like proper flooding and all that for like huge items to be carried into the site, right? And so he suddenly realized that, wait, there's no way that this huge stone got suddenly washed up. And why is it covered in like this red cloth? So he knew something was wrong. So this guy, his heart suddenly sank and he just realized that he had to go and look closer and see what was up with this thing. Like what was this thing doing here? So he walks up to this red covered stone looking thing and he's getting closer and closer. And he peeks his head like this, and suddenly he can see at the corner of one side of this thing is black hair, long black hair to the side of it. And so I think he already knows in his heart that it is what he thinks it's gonna be. And he takes a closer peek and he just pulls the red cloth to the side and he almost faints on the spot because his suspicions are confirmed and it's a freaking body, guys. There was a body on the construction site covered in this red cloth. And so this guy freaks out and he runs away and he's shaking, he doesn't know what to do, and he calls the police right away. So he calls the police are there in like 10 minutes and they're already investigating this whole scene. They uncover the body and they find the body with a lot of what appeared to be like bruises at first. So at first they thought the body was like someone that was badly tortured or hit or beaten. And this is quite an interesting detail, but the security guard that was there at the construction site reported seeing needle marks near her butt area. So while the police were uncovering her body, for some reason the security guard was looking at her body and he just noticed that there seemed to be a lot of needle puncture marks near her butt. And so this, as weird of a detail as it sounds, might somewhat be relevant, and I'll come back to this later. So the police try to identify the body as quickly as they can, and immediately this report of this missing person and now this report of this body found has suddenly matched. And they now know that they have the body of this 33-year-old Korean streamer called Ayong. So the police pull apart as much CCTV footage as they can from the 4th and the 5th and the 6th and even the dates before, and they found that Ayong was seen walking into this Chinese clinic on the 4th of June in the afternoon. So this clinic was really nearby the apartment where she lived with her friends, the couple, and it was just a 5 minutes walk from their place. She was there for about an hour to an hour and a half, and then she was seen leaving the clinic and she was walking out. And both times when she was walking in and when she was walking out, she didn't seem to be confused or disoriented or anything like that. She seemed like she clearly knew where she was going. It's almost as if she Googled for this place and she was following directions and she knew like, oh, okay, it's over there. And she was just walking straight. She was just beelining over there. So this clinic was quite unusual, guys, because it was just a little roadside clinic. It didn't even look like a clinic, honestly. It looked like a restaurant that had just closed down. You wouldn't even think it was a clinic if you first looked at it. But this clinic, the main signboard said that they specialize in gynecology, pediatrics, in Chinese traditional medicine, and they even do surgeries, and they had so many different services and procedures that they were offering. They even offered dermatology, which is like it just didn't make sense how such a small clinic could house so many specialists or have like so many doctors that specialize in so many fields. You'd think that this clinic would have a huge team of doctors and they'd be like pretty well known since they specialize in so many things. You guys know it takes so many years to become a medical professional and to specialize in a particular field. And these guys specialize or supposedly specialize in at least 4 different fields. So you'd expect them to have like a full team and all that. But guess what, guys? the only two people that worked at the clinic were the husband and wife that owned the clinic. And if that isn't sus enough, wait till you guys hear this. So this husband and wife that opened this clinic are two Chinese nationals that came to Cambodia. Why they came to Cambodia, I have no idea. Why they opened the clinic, I have no idea as well. But these two aren't even doctors, guys. Can you believe that? So these two opened a clinic in Cambodia and they supposedly specialize in so many different things. Pediatrics, which is like how to take care of kids, like everything child related. Dermatology, which is everything skin related. Gynecology, Chinese traditional medicine. They can do surgeries and so many other things. And these guys weren't even doctors. In fact, this clinic was opened illegally. It didn't even have permits. It wasn't even registered. It's as if someone opened a coconut shake stall at the side of the road and they just put a label that said specialist clinic. It's literally the equivalent of that. It's just a roadside stall that's like a makeshift clinic. For some reason, Ayong was seen going into this clinic on the 4th, and she was also seen going into this clinic on the 5th. So on the 4th, she went in. She just walked in, 5 minutes from her place, just took a stroll there. She went in, she was there for an hour plus, and then she left. I assume everything was fine at home. And on the 5th, around the same time, she ended up walking, again, nonchalantly, looked really confident, really calm, and she just walked into the clinic again. Unfortunately, that would be the last time that anyone would ever see Ayong because sadly, she didn't make it out of that clinic. So the Chinese couple that owned this clinic, this 30-year-old man and his 39-year-old wife, were now being interrogated by police because the last time Ayong was seen was at this clinic, right? And once they did a little digging and they found out they didn't even have licenses, that alone was already an offense. So these guys already started getting in trouble for this. When they were questioned why they decided to open a clinic and supposedly specialize in so many different things while not even having a proper certificate or any licenses, their excuse was so stupid, guys, honestly. The dude's excuse was that his wife came from a medical background and that he could learn from her family and that he was good at administrating like shots and all that. So that was his excuse to say like he's good enough to be a doctor or to open a clinic. What? And it's just so crazy, guys. Can you imagine if you came to this place to get a surgery? Let's just say I had to get like an emergency surgery, I don't know, for whatever reason, and this was the closest place. And I walk past and I'm like, oh my god, we're so lucky. Like this place offers surgery and I need a surgery right now. Can you imagine lying down on the operation table, about to get cut up, when suddenly you find out this guy isn't even a doctor and this whole clinic is like this makeshift clinic and the wife is not a doctor too, and these guys are all like full of shit, man. They don't even have any licenses or anything. So the police immediately arrest these two because they are like the prime candidates, like the prime suspects of this entire case. And if you look at the CCTV footage, when Ayong came into the clinic on the 5th, she came in at around 5 something to 6, and the second she went into the clinic, just a few minutes after, the lights that were switched on outside the clinic suddenly went off. Over the next few hours, you could just see the couple walking up and down the road alongside where this clinic was. So I'm going to put the footage up for you guys. You can see where the clinic is. They just seem to be walking out and about. The wife is like peeking her head out at the road. They just seem really anxious. And you know, if you are ever guilty for something, you just can't sit still in one place, right? You just can't sit still in one place because like you're constantly thinking what's happening, like what you're gonna do, and you're just fidgety, right? That's why whenever people get interrogated, investigators always pay attention to like suspects' body language. If they're always like fiddling with their fingers or like they're moving around like this and they just can't sit still, it's usually like a sign that something's wrong because they're very, very nervous for some reason. So these guys just seem really, really nervous. And so at 9 p.m, a few hours after Ayong's first entered this clinic, she still hasn't left. But by this time, the husband and wife decide to take off in their scooter, and I don't know where they end up going to. So they both get on their scooter and they get out of the place and they leave. And many hours later, slightly more than 4 hours later, at 1 a.m, they're seen to be driving their blue Prius back to the clinic. And you can see the way this Prius parks is such that it's blocking the entire entrance of the clinic. You can't see anything into the clinic. You can't see what they're doing. They still get out of the car and they're just there for some time, and eventually they all get back into the car and they just drive off. During this time that they were in the clinic, you could just almost see as if the car was shaking and moving just a little bit, like to its side like this. And I don't think it takes a genius to put 2 and 2 together, guys, but you might already know where this is leading. And so at first, when the media started reporting about this case, they actually spread a little bit of misinformation because the initial reports made said that the body was found to be in a terribly abused state. Some reports even say that she was burned, she was beaten badly, and like there were signs of torture. After forensic experts looked into the case, they realized that this wasn't actually the case. It was just because her body started decomposing at such a quick rate. Because you guys know Cambodia is a really, really hot and humid country. Even though her body wasn't there for too long, it already had started decomposing and her face started bloating, her veins were like popping out, and she just looked terrible. It really, really looked like she had gotten badly abused. But apparently this was just because her body was decomposing really quickly. So these two doctors that opened this clinic were now getting hounded by the media and by people online, because once this news broke out, obviously all of her fans started going crazy in Korea, and a lot of people in Korea started picking this case up. And so this doctor couple, I shouldn't even call them doctor couple, honestly, these two coconuts, what they started saying was that why would they have any intention to kill this girl? Like, it wouldn't even benefit them. They just came from China, they opened this clinic, they don't have a lot of money, they just had a kid. So like, why would it do any good for them to just kill like this random Korean girl, right? They didn't even know that she was like famous or popular or anything like that. So news reporters came to the prison cell where these guys were being detained to see exactly what their side of the story was that went down. And you guys won't believe this, because this is where things start to get very twisted and very, very, very suspicious. And so the man that owns the clinic said that Ayong first came in on the fort to get something called an Albany shot, which is supposed to be like an immune shot. It's supposed to like boost your immune system and all that. Apparently, he refused to give her the shots for some reason. He noticed there were a few needle marks already on her arm, and I don't know what that has to do with anything, but for some reason, he just decided not to give her the shots. He said that after that, Ayong suddenly felt a bit tired and weak, and she asked him if she could take a nap at the bed that they had at the clinic because she was feeling a little bit tired. And so this guy said, oh yeah, sure, like just sleep if you want to. And apparently he let her sleep for like over an hour while he was playing video games on his phone. So then they asked him what she was doing there the next day, right? If she supposedly came to get this one shot and he wasn't even gonna administer the shot, like why would she even come back the next day? Like what would her purpose be, right? He literally gave the same story. He said the next day she came in asking for the same booster shot and he didn't want to give it to her, and apparently she got tired and she felt sick and she wanted to sleep in the clinic again. And so he let her just fall asleep at the clinic. But this time, apparently, after he was playing games for a few hours on his phone, when he came back to check on her, apparently she was foaming at her mouth and she was unconscious. And he tried to give her CPR, and for some reason he tried to like stuff some tablets in her mouth as if that was going to do anything. He literally said himself that she was already unconscious, but for some reason he thought that giving her some pills would suddenly make her come alive. And that just goes to show you how big of a doctor this guy really is. This is where like the story is getting so ridiculous, because guys, if let's say you were a girl especially and you wanted to go into a clinic and this clinic already looked really shady and didn't even have that much equipment, it didn't even have like a proper waiting room, it just had tables and chairs lying all over it. It looked like a restaurant that was just about to close down. And you notice that there's no receptionist, there's no doctors, there's just one man there. Would you feel comfortable taking a nap there for a couple of hours, especially since this man has already rejected your request to get like a certain shot? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, right? If she felt tired or sick and she wanted a rest, like why not just walk back to your apartment, dude? It's just like 5 minutes away. She literally walked from her friend's apartment to this clinic so she could walk back. I don't think she suddenly felt so ill that she couldn't walk back, right? Because just an hour and a half later she was seen walking out completely fine. And both times, when she was walking in and out on the 4th and when she was walking in on the 5th, she seemed completely normal. She didn't seem like she was drugged, her body wasn't swaying. She seemed completely fine, completely normal. This guy's story of her wanting to take a nap for a couple of hours just doesn't add up. It just doesn't sound right. And I'm sure girls, especially famous girls like Ayong, who has stalkers and knows how dangerous it can be to be around strangers, I'm sure she knows her stranger danger, you know? She knows like how to make sure she doesn't put herself in very compromising situations. And I say that, but at the same time, she did go into this clinic alone twice when only this man was there. So I don't know, guys. I just feel like this story that this dude is giving doesn't hold any water. So then this guy claims that Ayong brought her own drug into the clinic and started injecting herself with it just because she was feeling sick and just because she couldn't get this booster shot that this guy wanted to, and she was feeling tired and she just wanted to sleep. So apparently she started injecting herself with this own drug. And so basically propofol is an anesthetic drug, and a lot of celebrities, especially celebrities in Korea, are known to abuse this drug. And apparently it's supposed to make you feel really relaxed and it's supposed to help you sleep better and all that. But obviously it's a drug and it's a heavily controlled substance, so it's not easy to get a hold of. So that's why there are some theories that said, oh, maybe Ayong came to Cambodia because, you know, Cambodia is a little bit more lax. Like, clearly, right, these guys have a clinic open at the side of the road that's not even licensed. So one of the theories is that she came here to look for drugs that she couldn't find. And so his theory was that she injected herself on the second day when she was at the clinic and she just overdosed, and that's why she was foaming at her mouth and she just passed away in her sleep. Everyone's next question was, okay, fine, if she actually did carry some propofol with her in her pocket or something, because she wasn't even seen to be carrying any bags. If let's say like she snuck a needle and some propofol in her pockets, and let's say she did inject herself, let's say she did overdose and she did die, why didn't you call the police? Like, what did you end up doing with the body? And you guys won't believe what this guy says. He says that because she suddenly died, he started to panic and he didn't know if the police were going to frame him or not. And he started saying that the police in Cambodia are super, super corrupt. So he didn't trust them. And he just felt like if he went to the police, that immediately they would try to get a bribe out of him. If you don't give me a bribe, I'm going to frame you and say that you killed like this foreigner that came to your clinic. And so supposedly he was freaking out, and what he did was he loaded her body into the car at 1 a.m. and he drove to this construction site that was 40 minutes out and dumped her body there. So up till this point, this is where the dude that runs the clinic officially admits that yes, he did hold her body when she was already dead, and he was the one that ended up dumping her body in the construction site. Honestly, guys, it's defenses like these that give me a real headache, because like, I don't know if I should give this guy the benefit of the doubt or not. Because like, what if he really was someone that came to Cambodia because he wanted to start a new life and he opened this clinic, and unfortunately this one patient came in and she suddenly did have like a drug problem and she did like OD on this drug. And I mean, she is a streamer that's like always in the limelight that could possibly have a lot of anxiety and sleeping issues, and maybe she was relying on this drug. I'm not saying she was, but I'm saying like she could, because a lot of celebrities are seen to use propofol because like they can't deal with the anxiety and stress of like always being in the limelight. Ayong is really famous, so I'm sure she would feel a lot of pressure like in similar ways, right? So I don't know if she did like turn to using drugs like propofol or not. So it suddenly gives this guy's argument like a little bit of water. So I have no idea if we should give him the benefit of the doubt or not, because this case is actually still unsolved, guys. Like, investigations are still going on and we still don't have like a resolved conclusion to what actually happened as of now. This is where this guy's stories start to become even less credible. And so they ask him, so what is your wife's involvement like throughout this entire ordeal? Like, did she know that Ayong suddenly died in the clinic? Did she know that you took her body to like dump at this construction site? And okay, maybe you should give this guy like a good husband award, because he was trying to make sure his wife was clean of any suspicions. He said that, oh no, my wife didn't know anything. She came into the clinic like sometime after Ayong was in, and she just saw her lying down and she asked me who this patient was. And he just said, oh, this patient was feeling sick, so she decided to take a nap. And that was about it. He said that when they left at 9 o'clock to go home, apparently his wife suddenly wanted to go for supper at 1 a.m. And so at 1 a.m., for some reason, they drove back to the clinic and she wanted to use the toilet. So I don't know what type of excuse that is, but apparently they drove back to the clinic at 1 a.m. because she wanted to go for supper. She used the toilet while this guy carried Ayong's body and put it into the car without her noticing. So apparently within this little few minute gap of her going to the toilet, of his wife going to the toilet, he just carries her body and dumps it into the car without her noticing it. And he takes her to the restaurant and he leaves her at the restaurant and says, hey, just wait here for a short while. I have like a quick errand to run. Like just order like this and that. I'll be back in a bit. And he then drives to this construction site, which keep in mind is like 40 minutes from where the clinic was. I don't think the restaurant that they would have went to would be that far from the clinic, right? So this guy drives all the way to the construction site, dumps the body, and apparently drives back to the restaurant and then has supper with his wife. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like such an unhinged and fake story. That literally sounds like this guy was put at gunpoint and just had to like come up with this fake story on the spot, you know? And so the media reporters that were reporting on this case, that were interviewing him to get like his side of the story and all this, were really shocked when he suddenly said to them, you guys better not twist this case or try to come up with your own conspiracy theories on what you think is going on, because my wife isn't involved in this. Like, she has our kid to look after and all that. And he literally threatens them by saying like, if I end up finding out that you guys twist this case and try to make me look like a bad guy, I'm going to come and sue you. So this guy literally is telling them that he's going to sue them if they end up twisting this case and end up making him look bad. So now let's start getting into some of the rumors that people are having about why Ayong actually went into the clinic. Because that, unfortunately, is the question that we can't get answered. The one group of people that might have some idea or at least know the most information will be the couple that owns the clinic, but they're obviously the prime suspects. So whether they're going to tell the truth or not, only time will tell, and only God knows at this point. One of the main rumors that netizens and people are having is that Ayong came to this clinic to get special plastic surgery. So like fillers, like Botox, and like almost like butt lifters. I don't know if you guys have heard of like BBL, but BBLs are basically injecting fat into your butt to make it look more full. And so people were suspecting if she went to this dodgy looking clinic to get a procedure like this done. And let me just break down for you guys why this doesn't make any sense. So first things first, Ayong comes from Korea, which is literally the plastic surgery capital of the entire world. The plastic surgeons in Korea are the best of the best, guys. They're literally the best of the best in the entire world. Their pricing is competitive as well, just because like there's so many surgeons there. And so why would she go from Korea, which is the plastic surgery capital of the world, a first world country, has almost all the medical facilities that she needs? Why would she go from there to Cambodia, which is a third world country that's a little bit more backward, especially medically, to this little clinic at the side of this road to get a procedure done? Some people started arguing, saying that, oh, it's so much cheaper to get it done in a country like Cambodia, but that wouldn't make any sense at all, guys, because she's literally a multi-millionaire. She just bought a really expensive apartment in Gangnam, and obviously looks plays such a big part of her entire career. Obviously, she want to make sure she takes good care of her appearance, and she won't just go to some dodgy clinic just to save a little bit of money, right? This is an investment in herself. It doesn't make any sense for her to take a risk like that. Other theories were people saying that she came to Cambodia to this shady clinic just to get propofol. But again, guys, I don't think that makes any sense, because like, I'm sure a person of her stature and her level of wealth is able to have connections that can help her get propofol back in Korea, like legally or illegally, I don't know. But I'm sure she'll be able to get it back home. There's no reason why she needs to go to like this little place, this little clinic in Cambodia just to get it. It just doesn't add up, just doesn't make sense. The thing is, if you look at the CCTV clips, so this couple were claiming that she took propofol, right? She took propofol on both days. So on the 4th when she first came in, and on the 5th as well. The thing is, when you see her walking out when she left the clinic on the 4th, she literally looked completely normal. She looked sober. She wasn't walking sideways. She didn't have her head like heavy like this. She was just walking completely fine. Later on, when the forensics did some urine tests, they ended up finding that her urine test came completely clean. She didn't have any drugs in her system. They did mention that a proper autopsy had to be done to really see if there were no drugs in her system, but a urine test is already pretty accurate, and that alone proved that she had nothing in her system. And so this Korean media team started to interview the wife, and they asked her if she knew about any of this going on. And the wife just gives the most unhinged answer ever. She just ends up saying like, oh no, I didn't know anything about this. Like, I was too busy taking care of my kid. Like, I didn't know anything, which is absolute bullshit. Literally in the CCTV clips, you can see that she was in the clinic the whole time with her husband on both days. And she was even seen to be walking in and out of the clinic on the 5th, which is the day that I assume she died, and she died in the clinic, right? And you could literally see the wife walking up and down. She's like, peeking out on the road. She just looks super anxious and like unsettled. She denied having any connection to the case at all, and she said like she didn't know anything, and which is just a bunch of BS, guys. Honestly, I don't buy that at all. No one can convince me that she had no idea that this girl was in trouble or something. This doctor couple then changed their statement again. They ended up saying that they administered her 2 plasma injections on the second day, and apparently when they gave her the second injection, suddenly she fell into a seizure, and when she got a seizure, she just like shortly collapsed and died right after that. The thing is, this doesn't even make any sense because normally plasma injections are supposed to be for people that have open wounds or like really serious cuts and all of that, and they want to inject plasma so that they can heal really quickly. But even in her body autopsy, which was found to be in such a bad state, they didn't even find any open wounds on her, so there would be no reason for her to even get this plasma injection done. And not only that, but experts said that it's very, very rare for someone to have seizures right after getting a blood plasma injection. Not alone having seizures, but dying because of getting a blood plasma injection. So it just seemed like these guys were trying to give as many excuses as they could to get out of this situation, but they didn't realize that it's just digging like a deeper and deeper hole for them. Because you see, at first, they said that they didn't give her any injections and they refused to. And then now suddenly they're saying that they gave her 2 injections and that suddenly she went into a seizure, which like just contradicts the initial statement, right? So this guy messed up already. Like this guy messed up already because he already gave 2 conflicting theories, which I feel just invalidates any little trust that the media or anyone would have of this guy. Another theory is that Ayong got sexually assaulted by the male doctor that was in the clinic. And to be honest, at first, when I first found out about this case, I thought that this would be one of the leading reasons why she ended up passing as well. I thought that this guy might have ended up doing something horrible to her. And to support this, they actually found her underwear put on backwards, like when they did her body autopsy. So that alone opened another huge can of worms, because some people were saying, oh, this is obviously like sexual assault because why would she wear her underwear backwards, right? Because that would be so uncomfortable. But then some other people started arguing, saying that, oh, maybe she didn't pack enough clothes and she just wanted to reuse her clothes, so she just did them inside out and wore them. But like, to me, that just sounds like an excuse again. Even if she last minute decided to go on a trip to Cambodia, especially something like underwear, maybe she would have brought like extra, or like she would have bought extra if she didn't have enough, right? That just sounds a little bit sus. And so everyone started threatening the doctor and they were asking him like, I gotta stop calling him the doctor, man. Everyone started questioning this dude, the clinic owner, and they were asking him, did you sexually assault her? And he stood very firmly and said, no, I didn't at all. If you guys want to keep accusing me of SA, go do an autopsy on her body. You won't find a single trace of my DNA on her. So that's what he said. The thing is, they didn't get to do an autopsy yet. I don't know why the cops are taking such a long time to do it. The law in Cambodia states that once someone is accused of a crime, even if they've just been charged and not officially indicted yet, they can be held by the Korean government for up to 3 years in prison. So let me give you guys an example. Let's say that I was really hungry, so I ended up stealing 100 plus bottle from a 7-Eleven. Let's say they want to investigate me. They technically can keep me in a prison cell for 3 years before they decide to sentence me, because that's just the law over there. So the police have up to 3 years to collect as much dirt as possible, like as much evidence as possible on your case to officially indict you. That's possibly a reason why they seem to be taking their time, because I'm recording this in December 2024. It's like a year and a half since this has happened and there's still no developments from the case. I don't think it's a good idea for the police to take their own sweet time, because it's going to be harder and harder to do a body autopsy, because her body is just going to decompose more and more with time, and it's going to get rid of vital information that we could get because they still didn't do a proper autopsy yet. We don't know if there were actually drugs in her system or anything. We don't know if there was this guy's DNA found in her body. So SA isn't even out of the question yet. So right after going through all of this info, people wanted to know where her phone was, because there must be some sort of info on her phone. It could be like last calls that she made. It could be like last messages that she sent out. It could be maybe she typed a suicide note or something. This all ties in with the Instagram post that she made, right? maybe there could be like some sort of cryptic message behind it. Maybe she had some details in her phone. Regardless, it's hard to argue that there would be no evidence or important information that we could have found from her phone, because there must have been something in her phone. That just makes me even more suspicious of this doctor couple, because if they really had nothing to hide and she really did pass away, why would you want to get rid of the phone? You already disposed of her body and like you already got caught. Why not just like return the phone if there's nothing to hide? So that's the part that really threw me off. It doesn't really make any sense. It just makes them look even more sus, honestly. And so people are suspecting that when these guys got on their scooter at around 9 p.m. and left, that's when they disposed of the phone somewhere, because it wasn't found with the body. So the body and the phone would have to be disposed at two different locations. This case is still unsolved until now, guys, unfortunately, and it is extremely tragic that this young girl is only 33, built her media empire already, she was making millions, she was doing so well, but it also gives us a little bit of insight into like the harsh reality of celebrities and famous people, especially female celebrities, because they just tend to have so many more stalkers and they just seem to be so much more vulnerable. The leading theory now is that they administered her something that caused like a bad reaction and she ended up passing away because of that. But either ways, everything from the husband lying about the wife's involvement, to them getting rid of the phone, and to them like switching off the clinic lights and then like dumping her body at some construction site, it's just all so suspicious and like it doesn't make sense. I really hope we do get some updates on this case, and when we do, I'll be the first to report on it and I'll give you guys an update on it. If let's say you had a clinic and let's say it was an illegal clinic, let's say for some reason you had to run an illegal clinic, maybe that's the only way you could provide for your family. Let's just give these guys the benefit of the doubt. If let's say someone came in and they were feeling unwell and like you gave them a shot or you give them some sort of medical procedure that they asked for, and let's say suddenly they got a bad reaction and they did die, which is very highly unlikely, but let's just say that she did end up dying because of this plasma injection, what would you guys do? I would call the cops immediately, like right away. And if people tried to frame me, I would just make like a huge social media post about it. I feel like if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't cover anything up like what these guys did. You shouldn't take your moped and go to throw a phone away and then carry her body and dump it in a construction site. You know, guys, I realize social media is so powerful. Even if you're a politician, you can't even run away from social media if someone ends up like exposing you. If these guys decided to release a post saying, hey, we honestly messed up, she did die because of this, it's a tough one, honestly, because they would still get into a lot of trouble for... Technically, I still think they would get charged for murder even if they did come clean to the police, because technically they did administer her with something that they weren't allowed to. So even if they did the blood plasma thing correctly and she ended up having a bad reaction to it, they still weren't allowed to administer her with that medication. This is another reminder not to go into places that you're not familiar with alone. I mean, I don't know if she was familiar with this place or not, but to be in a foreign country as a girl walking alone into like this clinic where there's only this one man alone, stranger danger, guys. You gotta keep yourself safe. At least let people know where you are. You laugh when I tell you this, but sometimes when I'm going to meet people that I don't know at places I'm not familiar with, I'll just text my best friend and I'll just send him my live location and I'll just tell him, dude, if I don't get back to you in like an hour or two, like call the police or something. I always do that just because I don't know what's going to happen, and it's just like a safety thing for me. Rest in peace to Ayong, and condolences to her family and all of her fans. It's so sad that she had to go out like this. There were also other cases of Korean celebrities that passed away in Cambodia after propofol overdoses, which is just very, very weird. There's this famous Korean comedian, I think, that passed away from a propofol overdose as well. This whole case is causing a little bit of tensions online between like Korean communities, Chinese communities, and Cambodian communities, because this is a Korean celebrity that died on Cambodian soil that was supposedly poisoned or killed by Chinese nationals. So the Koreans are like accusing the Chinese and the Cambodians of not taking this seriously enough and like working together to cover up the case, and it's just becoming a whole mess, honestly. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If there's any other cases that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments, and if there's any updates for this particular case, I'll be sure to make an update video.